And thank you for staying with us. A Social Cure is a feature documentary that's actually exploring the HIV AIDS crisis in South Africa. It doesn't just do that, but it also talks about the potential of a new networking technologies that affects positive social change and exploring the most recent innovations towards moving in an HIV-free future. Joining us now to share a little bit more about it is the author, the director, the writer, the producer of A Social Cure, Meissa Hampton. And Meissa, good to have you.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Good. And so when we talk about the HIV and AIDS crisis, of course, many of us right now are still enamored and dealing with COVID-19 and still trying to navigate that. Somewhere lost in the process sometimes is HIV and AIDS, but yet and still for you, very prevalent, and you want to make your voice known.
I did. It remains to this day one of the deadliest pandemics in our modern history. And in recent decades even, attention has turned away from it. And this is right at a moment when we are actually on the brink of being able to realize a future free from HIV. And it is a moment where realizing that future requires our interest and our communal participation as a global community. So I do think that we should be refocusing our attention there a little bit.
Yeah. And so when we talk about refocusing attention, a lot of things come with HIV and AIDS. One is awareness. Two is definitely cultural recognition as to what's going on. But in your documentary, talk to us a little bit about stigma, because I know you talk about stigma as well.
I do. It's my belief and sort of the premise for the film that the barrier between us and a future free from HIV is stigma. We now have the medical technology available to prevent future transmissions. If we can just diagnose those of us that have been exposed to HIV, if we can diagnose and get us on treatment, we can no longer transmit the disease. Anyone with HIV, the disease stops with them. But we have to make testing available and prevalent and embed that sort of into the social fabric of our day-to-day medical care. So, you know, I believe that that it's stigma that prevents us from availing ourselves of the medical technology that's available. ARV medication is now readily available in most countries in the world, but we don't go to the clinic to get ourselves tested, to avail ourselves of the healthcare. And I believe this is because of the residual stigma that's attached to HIV that's preventing us from approaching it as just another health condition, like diabetes or heart disease or any other.
Walk us through a little bit about South Africa, because this is exactly where the documentary centers on the HIV and AIDS crisis in South Africa. As you're out there filming and you've got boots on the ground, what is your experience and what are you finding out?
Well, for the film, we travel to South Africa basically because South Africa remains the epicenter of the global HIV pandemic. In South Africa, infection rates hover around 19% of the adult population. This is worse in the townships of South Africa. As we see with most medical issues, certainly with epidemics and pandemics, the marginalized populations are disproportionately affected. This is affected by race, by gender, and certainly by class, by income level. And so in the townships, adult infection rates hovered around 30%. This is higher if you're female at around 42%. So about 1 in 3 people has HIV in these townships. So this is very much a part of their daily life and a part of their reality. So we traveled to South Africa to look at how communities there are dealing with the virus and share that experience so that we can look at it more globally and maybe take it upon ourselves and our own communities to be a little more proactive at home.
Any similarities between what you see in South Africa and here at home?
Absolutely. The transmission modes are very much the same. Globally, HIV is predominantly a heterosexual disease. That's a general misconception, though in the US, it does still disproportionately affect minority populations, homosexual populations. Also in the South, it disproportionately affects African-American women, which is very much a parallel to the burden that people of African descent bear in the global pandemic. So there's much in the way of transmission. I mean, in these cases, there's a misunderstanding. Most HIV is, or much many cases of HIV are transmitted through monogamous relationships. This is when we stop using protection, and HIV transmission rates are higher, for example. So there's a lot of misconceptions that lead to the pervasiveness of HIV that I think are very much paralleled, but also those facts that these marginalized populations are still disproportionately affected. This is very much a parallel, and it is the situation globally.
Meissa Hampton captures a social cure dealing with HIV and AIDS, South Africa, bringing it all the way back to the United States, sharing with us some things about how social technology and social things of that nature can actually be a great blessing and bring about. Well, I'll tell viewers how they could actually be able to see the film before I ask you the next question.
Yeah, the film is currently available on Amazon. If you have Amazon Prime, the film is free if you subscribe. So you just search A Social Cure. You should be able to find it and watch it there.
Yeah. And so you're talking in your film about social technologies and how social technologies can actually be the difference maker in the fight against HIV and AIDS. What did you learn, and what can you share?
Well, what we're seeing now with our new social networking technologies, which are not so new anymore, they were still really exploding when the film was first conceived. But we've always known that behaviors travel through communities, through social groups. They're contagious, so to speak, that we influence one another. What we're experiencing now with social networking technologies is that these behaviors, that information travels farther and faster than ever before. So we have a unique capability to reach our communities at a larger scale and with immediacy. And this is an extraordinary power, and it's right inside each of our own pockets. So we can use these the same phenomenon of social influence, but we can reach much further than we've ever been able to before at a much faster pace. So this is an extraordinary capability, and I'd like people to explore how they can do that, how to do it effectively, how we can go beyond the way we use our social media traditionally to actually affect ground level change in our communities with using these technologies that we use every single day.
Yeah, it's important. And so for people who watch the film and have an opportunity to view your documentary, the takeaway, what do you want people to take away who've had the experience of seeing a social cure?
I would like people to walk away from the film ideally feeling empowered. I've seen many, many documentaries that raise my awareness to an issue, but I leave the theater or I leave my couch feeling a little disempowered. It's okay, now my awareness is raised to this issue. What can I do about it? Other than, send us a small donation to whatever organization. This film is ideally, it's meant to make you feel empowered, to give you the tools that you need to affect change in your own community, so that you walk away with a sense of empowerment and a sense of possibility as to what you can do and how you can affect change in your community and in your own life.
Well, Meissa, thank you so much for sharing a little bit with us here on Open. Certainly, people who want to have the opportunity to watch A Social Cure, as Meissa said, you can go right there to Amazon Prime and you can be able to check into that. Also, you can check out the website where you can get connected to A Social Cure. Meissa, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
All righty, we're taking a quick break. We do have more Open. We want you to stay with us. Open is coming right back right after this.